Today, we meet Elliot, founder of Excellent Agile Delivery and an expert in the field with decades of experience. EAD is a Melbourne-based consultancy about business agility. It can be training, it can be implementation, quality assurance, user experiences, and many more. In a nutshell, it's about helping you not to get trapped in spending too much time or money within the silo on one idea or goal. Now, it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but many of us who is passionate about what we're doing, running our own projects or businesses, we can get trapped easily. I think it's better when Elliot explains it, so roll the tape. Welcome back to another episode of Get Chatty about your local businesses. Today, I have Elliot with me. Hi, Elliot. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Arthur?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Thank you. Well, first thing first, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So I am an Agile delivery expert. I have spent more than 20 years in global consultancies doing, helping customers get the products that they want out to their customers. And I have launched Excellent Agile Delivery, EAD, to help smaller businesses do the same thing. So take Agile concepts and lean Agile concepts and apply them to their business so that they can get stuff out to their customers more efficiently, more effectively, quicker, cheaper, higher quality, all that good stuff.
It's a very interesting space that we're talking about with different small, medium-sized businesses, and it is a space that with a lot of change and is subject to change, subject to impact from the environment or economy quite easily. So that is important. But we're going to go into that in a bit. But let's get to know you. Let's get to know Elliot a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional history, how you started?
How far back shall I go? So I was in Red Robin reading group in first grade? No.
Or maybe a little bit.
A little bit. I was born and raised in the US, and I worked for consultancies in the US and Europe, based out of Washington, D.C. Worked across all kinds of different industries, helped all kinds of different customers get software and all kinds of new products installed, and essentially built and managed teams that were able to do that. About 8 years ago, I moved to Australia with the company I was working with at the time, and continued to do the same thing in more increasing roles. And then, just earlier this year, had a situation where the company I was working with decided to go a different direction than where I wanted to go. And I started looking at what other roles might be out there. And what I found is I thought there was a market for what I did that I could do independently and start up something. So that's what I've been working on.
The decision of going into working independently, what was the process like? Because it's not an easy process to
not at all. And for me particularly, I was in a position that I didn't need to get the next paycheck immediately. So I had appropriate money set aside that I could experiment with a few different things. So I did look at other roles that are out there with government, with companies, and I did interview with a few, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. I'm at the point in my life where I want to do what I enjoy doing, and in particular where I feel like I can help people that maybe aren't able to get the help from other places. So a lot of businesses are too small to get somebody like an Accenture or a Capgemini to be able to help them with their business. But I'm very happy to go into a smaller business and say, like, I can help you with the basics of how you're doing your day-to-day work. It's a good market that I'm interested in working in more.
We got to take a quick break.
Okay, that'd be good.
And and then we're going into a little bit deeper, because I would love to see how Agile can be applied to small business space.
Sounds good.
And we'll be back, and we'll listen to some messages from other OG supporters of the podcast. I think it's time for us to dive in a little bit deeper of what Agile is and how it can apply to the small business space.
So maybe I'll just do a little bit of background on what Agile is. So Agile is a little over 20 years old now, and it was based out of software development and a way to get software out to customers more quickly, right? So In the olden days, we would put together a whole list of requirements, go away for 12 months, code away, and then come back and share it with the marketing team, and they'd be like, that ain't what I wanted, right? And it's like, okay, well, rats, we just wasted a year and all kinds of money. So the concepts in Agile, in the principles are mostly, we want to get working software together. We want to get it quickly. We want to get feedback all the time. Iteration, essentially the little loop here in the E on my logo is inspired by iterations and continuous improvement and all those sorts of things. And part of doing that is breaking things down into very small pieces. So for, say, a marketing campaign, right, you could potentially have a huge effort going on for months upon months to figure out how you're going to market to a particular segment or something like that.
Yep.
And there's probably no shortage of situations where you have done that and then you've launched and then it fizzled and it didn't give you the results that you wanted. So what Agile will generally say is try little pieces, try a little bit here and there, start small, break things down into smaller parts, and then learn from them. And if your hypothesis is proven wrong, like, hey, I think this particular marketing campaign is going to go great to the gay and lesbian market, and they're going to love it, and then you launch it, and they're like, no, that's not for us. It feels like pandering or something like that. You can, okay, we only spent 2 weeks, 4 weeks planning. We can learn from what has happened, and then go back and improve it, and go from there. So that's a lot of what it looks like.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Sometimes when you have a system there, different teams work differently. Even if you're working for an organization with different teams in it, the same technology or same platform can be used differently by other people.
Yeah.
It's like if you just put something out there, it's like, it's the perfect platform. You have to use it. Everyone will like, fuck off.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. And that's where someone like yourself comes in. And then and from a small business space, there's something very important that many of us operate on our own or in a very small team. So we might trap ourselves inside a silo without knowing it.
Yeah. And then also once those teams start to get a little bit bigger, it's based off of just what you were doing and without necessarily a thought to what's going to work better once you have more people working together, more communication points, more opportunities for breakdown, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's perfect where somebody like me can come in and say, all right, you have multiple teams working on a system. Some of you are using it this way, some of you are using it that way. So then once you try to intercommunicate, things blow up. How do we...
It'll become a shit show.
That's right. I forgot we're allowed to swear on this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a clusterfuck.
Yes.
So no, the answer isn't necessarily what one team is doing is right and the other team is wrong, and we're all going to do that. What I typically will do with groups then is, all right, let's see how you're working. Let's see how you're working. Let's do the commonalities and then come up with the right process that'll work for all of the groups, and then pressure test that with them and say like, okay, you're doing it this way. We'd like to change it this way. Does that work for you? Yes, no, okay. If it doesn't, okay, great. We'll go back and try something else. And the goal is to get the consensus to get everybody together. It doesn't need to be perfect. If we're aiming for perfection, we're never going to get there. It's, I can live with this. It's not going to cause me trouble, and it's going to help me be able to do my job.
It's one of the things that is that chasing for that perfection. It can be the thing is, even starting this podcast, I was thinking like, oh my God, what's the perfect format or something like that. But it's important to get it out there, get some feedback, get some ideas.
Absolutely.
Keep rolling.
Absolutely.
Now, all right, how about, I asked you a question. Now it's your turn to ask me a question.
Okay. So I launched my brand a couple earlier this month at the Agile Australia conference. And what I found is I needed to very quickly explain to people what I did. Who are you? What's your business? Okay, here's your business, EAD. I struggled with that. And I think there were lots of people that had like the very pat answer that clearly they had thought through, and they say that 100 times a day. I help people do blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't know that I know any more than I did before. And I know you've polished and done that. However, to me, that was a little bit better than me, like, this is what I do. So how do you strike that balance into coming up with your elevator pitch without it sounding like, okay, she said this a million times and it doesn't really have any meaning, and it is, pressure tested to meaninglessness.
I think sometimes that there is a balance between communication and brand identity. I'm not against having a prepared speech about what you do, but then also having that question that really like asking the fundamental of what you can do for them. So because the thing is, it is a little bit tricky that if I go in and say, hi, my name is Arthur and I do marketing and digital marketing for people, and I like this. I mean, I was like, great, that's lovely. But how about I enjoy stories. How about you? And then something like that. And then start going into, as a marketer, I really enjoy using this digital space to talk about stories of other people.
Yeah.
Hey there, Editing Arthur here. Obviously, I went into a little bit of a rambling, so let me summarize this a little. This is the part that it's good to have a business plan as a base, which informs you how you plan to operate, and the overall goal, which in combination become the overarching context of what you're offering. And yes, on some level, you should still have a rehearsed elevator pitch, but that overarching context about you, what the other person is doing or talking about, and perhaps a bit of current affairs that you and the other person have in common, can be a great way to avoid that cookie-cutter way of speaking that Elliot had mentioned. Anyway, well, that's all from Editing Arthur at the moment. Let's go back to the episode itself.
Yeah.
So something like, have you ever come across a time that you spend hours and thousands into a project and then you realize no one really wants it?
Yes.
Or it didn't really work. So something like that, and then you spend a year on it, something like that. So,
we all kind of have those in our background at some point before too. Very early in my career, I spent 9 months building a system that we launched it, and then it was decommissioned 2 weeks later. It's like,
there you go.
But that's also you gotta pivot. You can sit there and get upset, but all that time's in the past, so you got to move forward.
And it's important to do the legwork.
Yeah.
And cut. Come in. Come in. Oh, don't worry. It's all very relaxed here.
I didn't know they were out there.
And 3 and 2 and 1. Now, let's talk a little bit about LGBT plus small business, because we are in such a fantastic, colorful space, but it's also a very stressful space.
Yeah.
When someone is operating the business, how they can apply Agile into their business?
Sure. So one of the practices of Agile is a retrospective, or at regular interviews, you are to reflect on the work done and come up with improvements. That's nothing. I mean, that's older than Agile. That's a pretty typical thing. But in Agile, typically recommend doing it every 2 weeks and say, okay, what have you done, and what worked? What do you need to improve on? So I'd like to do more of that on my own, and I encourage people to do that. It does seem a little hokey sometimes to be like, okay, but just and writing things down helps. Even though we're so attached to phones and computers and all that kind of stuff, the tactile sense of using a pen and paper and writing things down is helpful for your brain. So that's part of it. To the LGBTQ part, I don't know that it plays too much of a part in what I'm doing. Tech in general has always been one of the more open areas for folks from our population. That said, it's still, I'm on the older side, so I'm used to not assuming that everybody's okay with the fact that I'm part of that population. And it can sometimes be a second, I second guess myself whether I want to say something or not. And actually, funnily, when I moved to Australia and everybody referred to their significant other as partner, I was like, oh my God, there are gays and lesbians all over this place. And then I and then it took me like a couple months to realize no, people in opposite sex relationships use the word partner. So I thought I was coming out to people all left and right, and then I wasn't.
Nope.
No.
But I mean, that's one of the part of things that you put yourself out there, have a conversation with people. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you'll be trapped inside your own space. And I think in a way that, like what you said, the technology space really helped enabling our community. Because imagine that if someone in the job space that they don't like that much, and they can't go on Google, they don't have Google to look into the space or like what other businesses are like them. How do they improve themselves, learning new things or connect with other people? And I think technology enabled that for our community.
Incredibly, I mean, that's even, oh my God, I don't know. I think significantly older than you, but even finding a community back in the early 90s when I was in college, and on message boards, which were just green screens. It was just chatting with people and just being in the gay group and talking to other 18 and 19-year-olds. I mean, now it's nothing, but then it was just amazing.
And dialed up internet. Remember that sound that goes, and then if someone take a call or someone call you,
girl, I'm I'm talking green screen, like a mainframe. I'm like, I'm old.
Not by that much. If I tell you how old I am, I will murder you for real. The thing is, like, I always believe in one thing, that is, it's true what you say. Like, you do need to get yourself out there, and for example, like going out, network with people, talk to other professionals, just even if you just make friends, because sometimes that you don't, how do I put it? It might not be the person that you network with that gives you the business, but it might be someone they know. And it's very important on that front.
I mean, I don't know about you, but every job and I've gotten after the first job was based off of networking. It wasn't based off of submitting a resume. So I don't know if your situation is similar or not, but I literally, I moved across the globe because of networking, not because of, just responding to an ad in the paper.
It's very interesting because I think one of the, when I first started, I was mainly promoting the creative industry, like artists, performers, and things like that. And then when it got to a point that I met with a musician who happens to be a education technology person or for her day job, and then with all of the conversation happening, that I ended up joining a company that organized a trade show for that, a conference for the ed tech space, and that really helped me to widen my scope. Because prior to that, I was thinking, oh, that would be fun to do, like exhibitions, festivals, and things like that. But of course, like, in the last few years, if we know anything, I'm like, ooh, luckily.
PTSD. Don't too soon.
No, I'm actually, look, sometimes I don't like people. Sometimes I like, where's the pandemic when you need one?
I know.
It's like something like that.
But I need a 48-hour pandemic, not
not
like
an
an 18-month one.
No, thank you. Thank you. And now, Elliot, thank you so much. We still have one more segment to go. But before we do that, can you tell people how people can find you and if they're interested to know more about what you do?
Sure, absolutely. So we're at excellentagiledelivery.com.au, or LinkedIn at Excellent Agile, or LinkedIn at Elliot Dowling.
There you go. All of the information are on the show notes. And when we come back, that I will throw Elliot a bunch of random questions. This is what I call a quick fire round of random questions in a hat. I don't have a hat. I just have it all listed here.
Oh dear.
So yes,
send help.
You have seconds before you can answer that. Before you have to give me an answer. And are you ready?
No, but let's do it.
Okay. What is the one item that you couldn't live without?
Oh, geez. My phone. I'm sorry. That's pathetic.
Well, you kind of also need your charger.
Okay.
I will let you have both. Okay. What are you like outside of work?
I'm an introvert.
There you go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is actually quite interesting that when you are when you are more introverted, when you
Yeah.
have to go out networking,
Yes.
it has its own challenge.
It's something that I've trained myself to do, and to be up in front of people and train and certify people for 8 hours a day.
Cool.
I love doing it, but at the end of the day, I'm wiped.
Yeah, but that's why it's always good to have some time on your own to just recoup, re-energize.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yep.
And now, what's your favorite theme park?
Oh, geez. So I grew up in Pennsylvania, so it has to be Hershey Park.
That's chocolate what?
It is Chocolate World and roller coasters. Yes, it's amazing if you haven't been.
No. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
Hershey Park happy.
I'm gonna put on a lot.
There you go.
Which talent or skill would you like to wake up with tomorrow?
Oh God, wouldn't it be amazing if you could just play the piano?
No.
No, you don't think so?
Well, if you have a piano at home, because if you don't have a piano,
then it's kind of worthless.
And just because you have one, like,
Yeah.
what do? You break into your neighbor's home to play a piano?
You know what, the skill my partner wishes I woke up with is the ability to cook without making a mess. Because I love cooking, but I am not careful when I cook.
Did your partner ever show up and say, "We've been robbed"? Oh wait, you cooked.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh,
Similar.
it happens, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
And name a job that you do in the multiverse.
I don't know what that means.
Well, it's like if there's something in your history had changed a little bit, that other version of you, what kind of job that would they? And they're doing a completely different job.
You know what? If I hadn't wanted to start working as soon as possible, I would have gone to veterinary school and been a vet. I love dogs.
I did not expect that answer.
I know, weird, huh?
What inspires you on a Tuesday?
Tuesday mornings, we get up early and go to personal training. So my inspiration is, just getting there in time.
Fair. What is the biggest business lesson you've learned in your career so far?
Oh boy, that's the biggest business lesson.
I'll let you skip this one.
No. I think people will remember how you made them feel as much as they'll remember what you did for them. So you can do the best work in the world, but if they hate you, you have failed.
Yeah.
So it is important to consider your client, the other people around you, and to make sure that you're considering that as part of your day-to-day work.
It's very interesting you mentioned that, because there's a lot of people. I think there's a somewhat similar lesson that I've learned, is that I think, how do I put it? If I want people to take interest in what I do, I also need to show interest in what they do as well. Mm-hmm. And it's like, because it's not, because I'm a stranger, I'm saying that as a marketer, but then it's like, yes, it's marketing that when you're telling a story, but you also need to show that you are interested in other people's story. Mm-hmm. And then it could be within your team, it could be within your network.
Yep.
And like we talked about before, sometimes referral can happen.
Yep.
But no one would refer you just because you are good at your job, because everyone are good at their job. Everyone can be.
Yep.
But then when you take interest in who they are, what they do, then that actually makes better sense.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I have had some difficult clients where we said, what we really need to hire is a real bastard here. Does somebody go in and just be nasty? But that's the exception. That's and you don't want to be known as the nasty person. But,
well,
every once in a while you need that person, but
yeah,
I don't want to be that person.
Sometimes it's like when it gets so bad that it becomes good.
That's right.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And of course, that all the information about EAD will be on the show notes. And if yourself or someone that you know might be benefit in this one, they can reach out to Elliot. Just check out his LinkedIn profile, his website, and social media. And
great to connect with anybody, and just happy to have a conversation with you if there's any questions you have.
Amazing. It's always an eye-opener to learn something new, and that's what this podcast is about. While showcasing talents from the LGBT plus friends and allies spaces, it's also about learning from stories, those who jump in and start something that is unique. Elliot is a great example.
Here are 3 things I learned today. Agile principle may be big in the corporate world, but it can also be useful in smaller businesses because it's about emphasizing short burst deliveries, continuous feedbacks, and step-by-step improvements over time. As we in smaller spaces, we sometimes operate in silos without knowing it. Maybe knowing that we need that continuous improvement, but not knowing where to start. So someone like Elliot is providing that expertise to help you break the cycle. We looked into marketing as an example in our chat. We looked at it from software implementation, getting feedback, how it can build into a process, and the logical next step we haven't talked about would be an A/B testing for a short burst campaign. Well, that's how I can see it as a marketer. Now, what do you think what can be done for your project? Thank you so much, Elliot, for EAD for taking part in this interview. It was such a knowledgeable and good chat. I really had a great time. So I encourage you to look out for his work, his LinkedIn, all of his contact detail is on the show notes. Get Chatty About Your Local Businesses podcast is produced by me, Arthur, the Chatty Curator. I hope you enjoyed this episode, learn something new, or pick up something helpful to realize your aspirations. The podcast guests are making time and appeared in kind, so please consider supporting the podcast by supporting them. Head over to their socials and website on the show notes, like or share on social media, or tag a friend about it. Thanks for your company.